The Tony Awards are coming up on June 11th, celebrating the best in theater. So we want to chat about all things musicals, musical movie related. We have our pal Chris Woolsey here, Senior Director of Communications at Crackle, to chat about some of the films that we can go ahead and check out. Thank you so much for your time today. So great to see you.
Rudy, always the highlight of my month. Thank you so much for having me on.
So a lot of, people that are into theater are gearing up for the Tonys, and it's a great time to celebrate musicals and musical related movies that are out. And maybe if you haven't had a chance to see all of them, to kind of catch up. So this is a great platform that Crackle has.
Totally. And the great thing about it is it's always free. So no matter what you're watching, you don't have to pay for it. And we have a lot of older titles that have had a huge impact, not only on Broadway and musicals and film history, but some of them that people have kind of forgotten about a little bit. And so I'd love to talk about some of those today.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with the first one, The Phantom of the Opera. This is the version from 1925. The show just left Broadway. So, this has been entertaining audiences for, almost 100 years.
Yes, and it's the 1925 version, which is the silent film that we have on Crackle, is fascinating. I had seen it, I think, when I was a kid, when I was into all the original movie monster movies, Frankenstein, Dracula, Phantom of the Opera, and I had not seen it since. It is fascinating. So Lon Chaney, who plays the Phantom, did his own makeup for the film. And it was so terrifying that when the executives at Universal saw it, they said, we cannot let anyone see this until the movie comes out because audiences are going to lose their mind. And apparently, Mary Philbin, who plays the female lead in the movie, had never seen the makeup until he pulled the mask off in the middle of filming. And that reaction, you see this terrified reaction of hers, that was real because she had never seen it before.
That's one of the favorite things that I love about movies, when you hear some of the behind the scenes conversations of, the first time you got to see a set, the first time you got to see the makeup. And so sometimes you see that reaction and they're like, oh, this was acting, but it was also my genuine fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's understandable when you see Lon Chaney in this film. And this is horrifying. He actually took egg whites and coated his eyeballs with egg whites because he wanted to give it a milky look. And it truly is terrifying. I can see why she freaked out.
I cannot wait I got to go back and watch that one because that's something that I missed the very first time around. So I've got to go back and check that out. The next one, The Tale of Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd doing big business on Broadway right now. It's a story that you see popping up on national theaters, regional theaters, all the time. And it's something that has just captivated audiences as well. And it's also going in the same spooky vein.
Yes. And it's a great film. I am a huge fan. My daughter actually just did it in high school, and we went to go see it. And that musical it's really one of the greatest modern musicals. I just think it's spectacular. We have the film version with Ben Kingsley on, and this version is more true to the actual story that they believe is the true story of Sweeney Todd, which they're not entirely sure is even real. A lot of it is apocryphal. A lot of it is based on second and third hand accounts, and historians, there's a wide spectrum in the history world as to how much of the actual Sweeney Todd story is real and how much of it is this sort of beautiful creation from years of musical and theaters and books and all of these different things.
And then another one that's not quite as frightening from the character level, but from the plot level, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes, and this is hilarious. So Little Shop of Horrors produced by Roger Corman, who is notorious for being the king of low budget films. Now, I didn't know this. It was filmed in 48 hours for a budget of $28,000. They had sets left over from another movie, and Roger Corman was like, well, when are they going to tear this down? And somebody said, in a couple days. He goes, great, I'll shoot a movie. And they came up with the script. Most of it was improvised. It's unbelievable. Roger Corman got a local mortuary to donate not only a hearse, but also a coffin, which included a real corpse that is in the film. At one point, he wanted a character to get run over by a train, but he obviously couldn't afford the effects. So he talked the train crew into backing up the train away from the actor, and then they printed it in reverse so that he could get the same effect. I mean, he's really a genius.
Like, all the quirkiness would not have come out if it wasn't, maybe didn't have that 48-hour, deadline.
That's it. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. Yeah. And it has one of the first performances of Jack Nicholson. So you want to watch it just if for no other reason than for that.
Les Mis, another one that's so popular throughout the years and, seen national and regional wise and school wise, as well, too.
Yes, absolutely. This is the 1978 made for TV version that we have. And it's starring Richard Jordan, Anthony Perkins, of all people, and John Gielgud. It's really good. I love this story. It's one of my favorite musicals of all time. But the interesting thing about the film version is the novel and the musical, which came from the novel, starts at the point when he gets to the big prison. Well, this movie version, that doesn't happen until an hour into the film. So there's actually 25% of the movie is brand new material that was never seen before and was actually written just for this movie version. So you get to see the original trial, you get to see the early imprisonments and the escape attempts that got Jean Valjean, 20 years added to a sentence.
That's awesome. I mean, this show has so many fans. So if you have not seen this version to get to know a little bit more of the backstory, you got to go ahead and watch this one.
Totally. Absolutely.
Bye Bye Birdie, not just one version, you have two versions of it.
Two. That's it. And we've got the 1963 version, and this was the film version that was made just after the 1960 Broadway premiere of Bye Bye Birdie. I had forgotten that the story was inspired by Elvis getting drafted into the military. That was a super fun bit of trivia, but star-studded cast: Dick Van Dyke, Paul Lynde, Anne Margaret, in one, if not her first performance, one of her first film performances, Janet Leigh and Ed Sullivan. And really interesting. So George Sidney was the director, and he was so enamored with Anne Margaret that he went to Columbia and said, we have to shoot extra footage of her and use it as bumpers for the film in the very beginning and the very end. And Columbia refused. And so he pulled money out of his own pocket to pay for studio space and shot extra footage that they used. And come to find out, Anne Margaret exploded after this film came out and became basically a household name. And they repaid him for the money that he spent because they saw that it was money well spent.
Gypsy. We also have two versions of this one as well.
We have two versions of this as well. The 1993, which was based on the 1959 Broadway musical. And then we also have the 2015 that was recorded live at the Savoy Theatre in London. But the 93 version is really good, starring Bette Midler, Peter Riegert, Cynthia Gibb, and Ed Asner. And it's based on the biography, obviously, of Gypsy Rose Lee. Barbara Harris was supposed to play Tessie Tura, but Bette Midler, for whatever reason, didn't like her. And so the first day of shooting, she went over to the director and said, by the way, you have to fire her. Which, when you're Bette Midler, I guess you can do that. And so they did.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, the list of movies you just you just told us about. I mean, just even seeing someone who's into theater saying like, oh, let me go back and watch what a version, maybe before my time, or a version I haven't seen in a while is like, but also getting to see the early parts of these careers of these stars that you see now that maybe you didn't know they got started in theater or had done a musical movie.
Totally. And you can watch the two different versions of Bye Bye Birdie and Gypsy, and then you can do a comparison, see which one you like better.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. Again, it's free at Crackle TV. Go ahead and stream these movies. You can go ahead and catch up on all things musical related before the Tonys coming to us on June 11th.
Rudy, always a ridiculous pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Bye-bye.